Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, be honest with yourself for a second. Why do we constantly negotiate with ourselves to avoid hard work, even when we absolutely know we should just sit down and do it? Well, diving into the research today, it turns out that relying on motivation is actually this massive psychological trap. So we're going to explore how to fundamentally train your brain to do hard things. And the best part? You don't need extreme willpower to do it. Because doing hard things, it's not some innate talent you're just born with. It's a highly trainable skill. Today, we're digging into a really fascinating breakdown of habits that fundamentally shift how we approach effort, distraction, and focus in our modern, super distracting world. To make all of this incredibly actionable, we'll be moving through a 6-part framework today. The motivation trap, the art of starting, surviving the urge to quit, designing your environment, reliability over intensity, and finally, your next step. All right, let's jump right into part 1, the motivation trap. Stop waiting to feel like it. Here's the thing, your brain gets better at whatever you repeatedly ask it to do. And yes, that definitely includes avoiding hard work. If you automatically reach for your phone the second work gets boring, those avoidance patterns just get easier and easier to repeat. So instead of relying on this flawed strategy of waiting for a feeling, we've got to identify immediate action. Imagine getting home from work, fully intending to exercise. You sit down for a second and boom, your brain starts negotiating. If you ask the emotional question like, do I feel like exercising? Let's be real. The couch usually wins that fight. Instead, you need to ask a practical question. What do I do next? Don't feel like exercising? Totally fine. The next action is literally just putting on your shoes. You absolutely do not need to manufacture enthusiasm before you act. Motivation constantly fluctuates, right? It comes and goes like the weather. But action can be trained. One of the most useful mindset shifts you can possibly make is realizing that wanting to do something is completely optional. Actually starting it, though, isn't. That brings us to phase 2, the art of starting and lowering the barrier to action. Starting is exactly where almost everyone gets entirely stuck, and it's almost always because of how we frame the task in our heads. A vague goal like, oh, I need to work on my project, requires a bunch of decisions that just create delays. Your brain still has to figure out what to actually do, and every extra decision creates another sneaky opportunity to procrastinate. But a ridiculously clear physical action like opening chapter 6 or drafting 3 side headings, that makes the whole thing far less intimidating. You want to start one visible action, not the whole giant project. And this brings us to the magic number 10, representing the 10-minute entry rule. When you feel that extreme heavy resistance to a task, just commit to 10 minutes of it. That's it. You're not committing to finishing it. You're not even committing to doing an amazing job. Just 10 minutes. This radically lowers the cost of entry. And the best part? You are completely allowed to stop afterward. Seriously. Now, often you'll actually keep going because the task feels way different once you're already in motion. But the point is, you are practicing the behavior you need most, starting before you actually feel ready. Moving on to part 3, surviving the urge to quit. We're navigating the discomfort gap. Let's deconstruct exactly how an avoidance habit quietly strengthens in your brain. It's like a negative feedback loop. You attempt a hard thing, like opening a difficult report. You feel an uncomfortable feeling, maybe confusion or frustration. So you escape to a distraction like your phone. And suddenly, you feel immediate relief. The confusion instantly disappears. Your brain learns right then and there that escaping is the perfect automatic reward for discomfort. You're literally teaching yourself to seek immediate emotional relief instead of tolerating the natural friction that comes with hard work. To break that negative loop, you've got to employ the 1-minute rule. The very moment you feel the desire to switch tasks, like right when that paragraph gets confusing or the spreadsheet gets incredibly tedious, stay exactly 1 minute past the urge to quit. Read the paragraph again. Write just one more sentence. You aren't forcing yourself through hours of total misery here. You're just practicing a tiny intentional delay between the discomfort and the escape. And while you're sitting in that discomfort, you really have to remember this profound truth. Boredom isn't an emergency. Hard things naturally contain boring parts. Learning a language, exercising, studying, they all require unstimulating repetition. If you constantly reach for your phone the very second your stimulation drops, you completely ruin your brain's ability to sustain effort. We have to stop treating an unstimulating minute like it's a huge problem that needs to be urgently fixed. All right, part 4, designing your environment. Friction is your friend. Setting up your surroundings correctly means practicing self-discipline requires far, far less mental effort. These tactical tweaks aren't about having extreme willpower. They are all about friction. Think about it. If your phone is sitting right beside your keyboard, it takes absolutely zero effort to open it. Move it completely out of reach across the room. Turn off all those non-essential notifications that don't need your real-time attention. When a random, distracting thought pops up, write it down on paper instead of immediately acting on it. Or use a quick 2-minute setup at night to plan tomorrow's first action. Make the good behaviors easier to start and the distractions just slightly harder to access. Look at this comparison. "I'll do it later" is a vague intention. It isn't an actual time. But by linking a hard task to a specific trigger, like if I finish breakfast, then I will walk for 20 minutes, you totally remove that exhausting daily decision of when to begin. Decide once and let your existing everyday routine become the cue. Which leads us to part 5, reliability over intensity. Consistency wins. We all know this trap, the legendary intensive comeback schedule. Waking up at 5 a.m., 3 hours of deep work, absolutely zero screen time. Sure, it looks fantastic on paper tonight, but the typical result? Tomorrow you are entirely exhausted and quitting. Doing hard things shouldn't be a recipe for rapid burnout. Building reliability, like doing just 20 focused minutes every single day, gives your brain the sustainable repetitions and capacity growth it actually needs to rewire itself. Consistency gives you something intensity simply cannot: reliable repetitions. A great way to guarantee that consistency is to create a minimum version of every important habit. Your normal workout might be 45 minutes, right? But your minimum version could be just 10 minutes. This strategy protects your continuity on those incredibly busy or low-energy days. It swaps that destructive all-or-nothing thought of, well, I can't do the full workout, so I'll just do nothing, for the highly productive, I'll do the minimum and keep the habit alive. Now, crucially, you have to forgive yourself when you inevitably mess up, because you will. You'll get distracted, you'll skip a workout. The real skill here is shortening the distance between slipping up and returning. Increase difficulty gradually and stop before every session becomes completely miserable. And please, don't wait for next Monday to restart. Restart at the very next opportunity. Replace guilt with action, because honestly, self-criticism just adds heavy emotional weight to a task that is already difficult enough. Asking yourself, what's the next useful physical action, gives you somewhere productive to actually go. So the big takeaway here is redefining what self-discipline really is. It is simply training the ability to experience resistance without automatically letting that resistance decide what you do. You aren't training to suddenly enjoy every single hard thing or possess endless magical motivation. The truth is, hard things don't necessarily become easy. You just become much, much better at doing them while they are still hard. Okay, final section. Part 6, your next step and the final habit. We've broken down the mindset and the toolkit, but to ensure you don't just feel inspired for 5 minutes and then forget all of this, you actually have to execute. Choose just one hard thing you've been avoiding. It could be studying, a workout, or maybe a stressful work project. Practice approaching it consistently for just 7 days. Do one hard thing every single day, keeping the same hard thing for 7 days. You aren't aiming for perfection here, you are aiming to accumulate those vital repetitions of saying, I said I'd start, and I started. So, here is my final challenge to you. What is the one hard thing you have been avoiding? And what is its very first, ridiculously clear physical action you can take right now? Before you click away to another tab or pick up your phone, I challenge you to answer this question. Close this explainer, give that task just 10 minutes, and do it right now. You've got this.